First rule is focus on the reasons, not the person voicing them. Notice that throughout this, my camera was off, your camera was off. We're concerned with studying reasons and how they're laid out logically. I'm not saying people don't exist. Like here's a little kind of gingerbread man, right? And people being what they are, they have their thoughts, right? Here's a thought bubble. This little gingerbread person is thinking A. God bless them, they have their thoughts, and that's great. But guess what? I don't really know what to do with thoughts because, they're private. So who knows what you're thinking right now. So luckily for us, sometimes, we say things in public. And when we talk about it, then, or write it down, it's capturable on a recorder. It's capturable on a typewriter. So I'm not going to be concerned with thoughts in this class, right? It's really I don't really care. In fact, I don't really care about people. I don't care about you. I don't really care about me either. And I don't care how things were said. Was it written? Was it said orally? I don't know. All I'm concerned with are the sorts of propositions, the sorts of things we can express in language, right? Whatever anyone says in the chat, I want to rip it right off. I know your name's attached to it when you type it, but I don't really care. The first rule says we focus on the reasons, not the person voicing them. So I don't really care. Are you old? Are you young? Are you tall? Are you short? Are you dark skinned, light skinned? I don't know, and I don't care. All I'm concerned with is if you can spell it out. There's that line in Predator, right? If it bleeds, we can kill it, right? Well, if you can write it, I can logically evaluate it. I can philosophically analyze it, right? That's all I'm concerned with. I think of the rules we're looking at as the anti-Twitter, like the complete opposite of the sorts of things you'll find in the ordinary world where there's personal attacks and all of that stuff. Rule number 2 says an argument should never assume what it's trying to prove, right? You've done argument diagrams. If I have an argument diagram that says 1, therefore 1, it's not helpful at all. Why 1? Well, because 1, right? Like this, whatever 1 stands for, this is something I want us to avoid. That's called circular reasoning. And by the way, it's harder to avoid. Let's imagine this is a question on the midterm. Was decision X right or wrong? Give reasons for your answer. 2-part question here. Tell me whether it's right or wrong, and then give me reasons for your answer. And then the answer is, well, decision X is wrong because it is wrong. Well, look, to its credit, this answer at least does the first part. I said, was decision X right or wrong? And the answer says, well, it's wrong. And they planted their flag on the wrong side. All right, cool. Okay, now I know what you think. Well, why do you think what you think? Why should anyone agree? Well, because, and what's the premise? Well, because it's wrong. Well, this goes back exactly to what we were saying a moment ago, right? And I think everyone can see that this is completely unhelpful. And we want to avoid this. Now, I don't think anyone's going to write this, but you might write this. Decision X is wrong because it's unethical. What's another word for unethical? Yeah, wrong. Wrong. Exactly. So all this does is it's not really an improvement over the previous one that we just saw. All it does is it tries to mask its circularity by switching words, right? Instead of saying wrong, we say it's unethical, which is a fancier sounding name than wrong, but it's still circular. Here's another circular answer. Decision X is wrong because it's unethical, and only right decisions are ethical. Let's imagine I have a clicker, and I say here, give reasons for your answer. Reasons is in the plural, so I want to count the reasons. How many reasons have been given for why decision X is wrong? We've said that it's wrong. That's the conclusion. How many actual reasons have been given? So that's the conclusion. If you count the premise, is zero. Big fat. No, nothing's actually been said. The conclusion's been said again in a different manner, right? No reasons have been given. No reasons whatsoever. Let's imagine decision X is wrong because it's unethical. Ethics is concerned with what is right and wrong, and only right decisions are ethical. Well, look, I mean, if you're concerned with the word to reason count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's just a bigger 11, 14. I think I'm counting, 16 words or whatever, right? And how many reasons? Word count went up, we agree. You can see that at a glance. How many reasons? Yeah, zero. What do you think I'm interested in? Words or reasons? Obviously, this is what I care about, right? Let's imagine this one. Oh, this now earlier was silly, but I'm sorry to say this could totally look like an answer in a midterm. Decision X is wrong because it's unethical. The reason why decision X is unethical is that X is against ethical standards. Also, one should act in an ethical manner, and X simply does not fit with that. Refusing to do X would therefore be the right decision. So because the company did X, what that company decided to do was completely wrong. Acting ethically is important when doing business, and in the case we looked at in class, the company showed that it was not ethical by doing X. Those, in sum, are my reasons for thinking that decision X was wrong. How many reasons were given here? None. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Oh, okay, so let's have a brief. Let's take a page from the Catholic tradition for just a brief moment. Let's have a confessional. We've all written this at some point in the midterm, haven't we? Like we've all bullshit, right? Haven't you? At some point, given an empty word salad with no nutritional value whatsoever, right? Like haven't we all? Like, all right. So this is unhelpful, right? The rule number 2 says we don't want to assume what we're trying to prove. This is assuming what it's trying to prove. Again, it told me a conclusion. It said decision X is wrong. So to its credit, there's a conclusion here, but not a single argument is made. So this is an example of what not to do. Okay. Here's an example of what to do though, because I want to give you a nice contrast now, because this is depressing. I'm going to have my reason counter on standby here. Let's read this. Decision X is wrong because the persons who made that decision had agreed in public not to do it, yet they did it anyway. One should always keep one's word, so by doing X, those persons broke their word. Maybe in the short term they got what they wanted, but in the long run, no one will want to do business with them, so it really was not in their interest to do X. Also, as a result of doing X, several hundred people got sick. Those who decided to do X could and should have foreseen this, so they should have either not done X or ensured beforehand that the possible health risks were minimized. By not taking these precautions, those who did X showed that they are not fit for the job, which explicitly requires safety training. How many reasons here? Beautiful, beautiful. Do we agree that this is far preferable to what we saw? That's what the rule means, right? Like, give me some real reasons. Now, that's a lot harder than the bullshit word salad, just making stuff up, right? Just like juggling a bunch of jargon together in the hope that I won't notice. Trust me, by the way, I will notice. And by the way, I want to warn you about circular reasoning. Circular reasoning can also happen in questions. Here's some examples of questions. They're not circular, but just to give you a sense, remember we've got issues. Remember they end with a question mark. It isn't because something ends with a question mark that it's actually a question. How are you? Let's just take that for an example, right? How are you? It's not really how are you. It's I'm happy to see you. It's not actually a question. Are you out of your mind? Suppose someone says this. That's also, it ends with the next question mark, but it's not a question. What it's actually saying is, what you're saying is unacceptable. Do you seriously think I'm going to pay that much? Again, grammatically, it looks like a question, but really it's not a question. It's saying the price is too high. Do you still love me? Looks like a question, but isn't. It's saying I need more affection. What was I thinking? Looks like a question, but it is. What was I thinking is in fact saying I regret my former decision, right? So it isn't because something has a question mark at the end that it's a question. Sometimes you can actually have a conclusion. You're assuming the very thing you're trying to prove. So here's a list of questions that are actually conclusions. They're biased. They're actually telling you what you already want to hear. Let's start with the first one. Should Paul continue his rotten behavior? This is not a real question. This is a way of saying that we should not accept Paul's behavior. And that's something that ought to be backed up. If I ask, for instance, is it okay to support an injustice of this sort? Well, of course it's not okay. It's an injustice. So what I'm really saying is it would be unjust to support this. If I word things in such a way that I say, was company X doing the right thing when it flagrantly violated person B's rights? Well, we know what we already want to hear, because what we're saying essentially is that company X did not treat this person well. Well, go out and say that, but don't pretend that it's a question. If you ask, should customers continue to let themselves be taken advantage of by the greedy owners? Well, of course they shouldn't. Not if you frame it that way. But what you really mean to say when you ask that question is you've already taken a side on this. You're saying that what the owners are doing to the customers is wrong. Is it morally correct to suppose those who engage in evil business practices Well, look at the wording here. What you're basically saying is that these business practices should not be supported. And these are not questions, they're actually conclusions. So when I mean you need to pick an issue, I mean a real issue. Like not the sort of thing that masquerades as an investigation, but as just dress up for the fact that you've already assumed the outcome that you're looking for. My friends, that was rule number 2. An argument should never assume what it's trying to prove. The third rule is always construct strong reasons for and against a main conclusion. Not only are you exploring the reasons for one possible answer, but for the no side as well. So the yes and the no each get some love, and not just any kind of love, strong love. You don't want to have a weak argument and a strong argument. You want both sides to be as strong as possible so that we can genuinely make some progress. That's rule number 3. And finally, rule number 4, state the conditions under which you're prepared to admit that you're wrong. This is more than just saying keep an open mind. It's like, let's say we go back to this argument over here. Having considered the issue thoroughly, and this would be the paper trail of receipts for it, you'd be like, I've finally decided that my deliberations are resting. I'm planting the flag on the red side. All told, I think the considerations are more, they're stronger on that side. Fair enough. But what would make you change your mind? What's the problem with the argument at the top? And if you can't point out, you're not actually are listening to reason, because you could be wrong. And this is what distinguishes, by the way, when I was doing this this Venn diagram earlier, philosophy is kind of like at the intersection of the meaningfulness of religion and the rigor of science. This is what philosophy takes from science. It's this willingness to state the conditions under which you're wrong. That's what distinguishes a scientific theory. Religious texts can't be shown wrong. There's no condition under which you'd say, well, we got to come out with Bible 2.0 and trim out these parts, right? Like all the parts about like killing babies and stuff, let's pull that out, or something like this. Like that'd be great. Scientists do that all the time. In fact, they abuse that because you have to have new textbooks each time, 6th edition, 7th edition, and they charge you for it. But the idea behind that is that we're constantly revising. You need to have that as well. We should take a page from that, and we should state the conditions under which we're prepared to admit that we are wrong. This, my friends, are our 4 rules. I would describe them as the anti-Twitter. What do you think? Are they clear? Are they worth taking on? I'm taking them on. You think the world would be a better place if more people were doing like us?